Hello, in this video, I want to go through all the cards that I would include if I was going to build a Toph Hardheaded Teacher commander deck focused on Earthbending multiple times, and then using our lands as a resource because Earthbending helps them come back. First, I have Amulet of Vigor. For one colorless, it's an artifact. Whenever a permanent enters under your control tapped, untap it. Whenever an earth-bended creature returns to the battlefield, it enters tapped. So now all of your earth-bending lands that you sacrificed for value will come in back to play untapped, and you can use them again immediately. Ashiya, Soul of the Wild. For green 3, it's an XX. Equals the number of lands you control. Non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. So now you have all of your creatures are also able to be earth-bended onto. Avatar Kyoshi, Earthbender, is 5, a green, and a green for a 6/6. During your turn, it has hexproof. At the beginning of combat on your turn, Earthbend 8, then untap that land. Huge Earthbending creatures. Every single turn is exactly where I want to be in this kind of deck that really cares about Earthbending, cares about the whole special counters, cares about the lands, all that fun stuff. Badger Mole, when it enters, Earthbend 2. Creatures you control with plus encounters on them have trample. Nice because it, earthbends a little bit more, but also gives you more value on your earthbended creatures. Badger Mole Cub. When this creature enters Earthbend 1, whenever you tap a creature for mana, add additional green. All of your earthbended lands will also add for additional green because they're now creatures. Bit of work. 1, a red and a green for an enchantment. Whenever you attack a player with one or more creatures with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Exhaust, 4 colorless, Earthbend 4, activate only during your turn. So, once your earthbending creatures get up to a certain, power and toughness, specifically power, I think there's some cards in this deck you're going to want to earthbend up higher, and there's going to be some where you want to create multiple things. But for this card, you want to get it up to power 4, and then you want to be able to earthbend once. Boomy, Eccentric Earthbender. For 3, a green, it's a 4/4 when it enters, Earthbend 1. Whenever it attacks, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each land creature you control. So, immediately gives you another little guy, and then every single time it attacks rewards all of your earthbended stuff, which is super easy earthbending this deck because literally casting a spell earthbends 1. Boomy Unleashed. For 3, a red and a green, it's a 5/4 trample. When it enters, earthbend 4. It deals combat damage to a player. Untap all lands you control after this phase as initial combat phase. Only land creatures can attack during that phase. You're going to be able to make a lot of earthbended creatures with this deck. Cracked Earth Technique. 4 colorless and a green, earthbend 3, then you gain 3 life. If you either get 2 3/3s, or you get a 6/6, then you gain 3 life. Pretty good. Crop Rotation, additional cost to cast the spell, sack a land, set your library for a land card, put on the battlefield, and shuffle. So you can sacrifice to one of your 1/1 earthbending cards, guarantees you get the land back, and then you get any land out of your library, which is fantastic. Cycle of Renewal, sacrifice a land, get 2 basic land cards. So sacrifice a mountain that you earthbended onto, and then he comes back into play, and then you'll get a mountain and a forest. Super nice. Disciple of Freylease. When it enters, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you gain X life and draw X cards or X as that creature's power, which is nice in a deck that has all of these earthbending creatures around that you can sacrifice and get back the land immediately. The Garden of Freylease is just a land on the backside, so at worst, it's a bad forest, which is a great place to be. Earth Rumble. For 3 colorless and ingredients, Earthbend 2. Whenever you do, up to 1 type of creature you control fights that creature and opponent controls. It does not have to be the earthbended creature that fights something. So you can have a 2/2 come into play, and then you can have Toph, Hardheaded Teacher fight something, which is nice. Earthbender Ascension is 2 and a green. When this enchantment enters, Earthbend 2. Then search your library for a basic land card, put into play, tapped, then shuffle. Whenever a land you control enters, put a quest counter on it. If you do, and it has 4 more counters on it, put the ++ counter toward creature against Draper. This card does a lot of things in this deck. First, it earthbends, which is on Fate. It's a spell, so it's on Fate. It ramps you, which is great. And then once you have 4 lands enter, either that's lands entering or earthbending lands re-entering after dying, you just start putting gold counters on things and giving them trample. 4/5 commander, 5/6 commander, super nice. Earthbending Lesson, 4 mana, Earthbend 4, pretty simple. Earthbending Student, when it enters, Earthbend 2. Land creatures you control have Vigilance. Vigilance is very strong. Being able to attack and block is fantastic. Being able to not lose anything by attacking is great. Elemental Teachings. 4 and a green, search your library for up to 4 land cards with different names and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Put the chosen cards into your graveyard and the rest onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So you get 2 of the 4 lands, and the other 2 go into your graveyard. And if you have any kind of graveyard recursion effect, which you're probably going to want to play on this set. Just get them back, which is nice. Intis Restoration, 2 and a green. Sack a land. Search your library. If you have the 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, instead search for 3. So, as soon as Toph has 1/1/1 counter on it, or you just Earthbend up to a 4/4, sacrifice a different land and get 3 basic lands with free mana, is a great place to be. Evendo Brush Razor, 2 and a red for a 2/2. Whenever you sacrifice a non-token permanent, exile top card your library. During your turn, as long as you sacrifice a non-token permanent this turn, you may play cards exiled with the creature, and then it has the ability to tap, sack a land, and red. There are a couple cards that I'm going to include in this list that sacrifice lands, because your lands are not earthbending. They're very easy to get rid of. They're easy to get rid of, and they don't really cost anything because they come back into play immediately. Evolution Sage. For 2 and green, it's a 3/2 landfall. When a land enters, proliferate. Yet every single time one of your lands dies or is exiled, it's earthbended. It comes back in play and proliferates up all of your other earthbended creatures. Explore, additional land, draw a card. Farseek, search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain card. Goblin Archaeomancer. Each spell you cast is red or green, costs 1 less to cast. Great card in this 2-color deck. Hardened Scales. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters we put on a creature you control, put that many +1 instead. So now Earthbending 1 is Earthbending 2. Haro, sack a land, get 2 basic lands. I've already explained why those are good in the deck. Horizon Explorer. 2 and a green, 2/4. Lands you control enter untapped. Great with all of our Earthbending stuff. And whenever you attack a player, create a lander token. So you can sacrifice and make a basic land, which is nice. Inspiring Call. Draw a card for each creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. Again, I think some of the times in this deck, they're going to want to be multiple Earthbending things instead of big Earthbending things. I'm going to give all those creatures indestructible. Lotus Cobra could definitely add some mana. Sacrifice the land, it comes right back into play. Add mana from the land re-entering. Does the land enter untapped? Oh, you get more mana from it there. Nahiri's Lithoformy. X red, sack X lands. For each land, sacrifice this way, draw a card, then you can play X additional lands. So you can sacrifice 3 of your Earthbenders, draw 3 cards, dump 3 lands into play if you have them. Oh, and your lands all come back. Very nice. Orcish Lumberjack. Tap, sack a forest, add 3 mana in combination of red and or green to your mana pool. So another way to sacrifice your lands and get them back immediately and add some mana to your mana pool. Origin of Metalbending. Either destroy target artifact or enchantment or put a +1 counter to a creature control against indestructible. Super flexible card. Rampant Growth. Get yourself more basic lands. You're playing a landfall type kind of deck. Rockolanch. 2 and a green, Earthbend X, where X is the number of force you control and you can flashback it later. Roiling Regrowth. Sack a land. Search your library for 2 basic land cards. Put them on the battlefield tapped to the shuffle. Swootstorm. Landfall. When a land you control enters, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token with a copy of Swarm instead. If you remember playing Standard or watching Standard content during Zendikar Rising, you know this card's insane. Seismic Sense. 1 green for a sorcery lesson. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it to your hand. With the rest, on the bottom of the library in a random order. It's a little bit of fixing, and it's a lesson. You need to play a couple lessons. Shared Roots, another lesson. Throw your library base blind card from the battlefield, tap and shuffle. You know, I am not worrying about creating a lesson list here, but just including the lessons that are good. Remember, this is a lesson. Origin of Metalbending is a lesson. Including these very flexible cards that just do something on rate that we'd already know what to do that happens to be a lesson is just more value. Skullclamp is a way to sacrifice those earthbending things to Skullclamp, draws 2 cards, and get your land back. It's a fantastic place to be. I also love Skullclamp. If the lands come back into play untapped with any of our effects that do that, you can immediately tap them to click on to the next thing, which is nice. Solid Ground. 3 and green. Once enchantment enters, Earthbound 3. If one or more +1/+1 counters you put on a permanent you control, put that many +1 +1/+1 counters on it instead. So does all the things you want it to do. It's a spell, so you get to Earthbend. You Earthbends, you Earthbend 3. And it puts more +1/+1 counters on things, so your 1/1s become 2/2s. You know, you can't sacrifice them to Skullclamp, but a bunch of 1/1s being 2/2s makes a big difference. Spelunking, 2 and a green. When it enters draw, then you may put a land card from your hands to the battlefield. If a cave was put in this way, you gain 4 life. Lands control into the battlefield tapped. I have a couple caves towards the end of the video that we're going to include, or this I would include. And then lands come into play and tapped is great. Sylvian Safekeeper, sack a land, trap creature you can Sylvian Trench on the turn. You know, give some protection to your stuff just by sacrificing one of your Earthbend things. You get the land back right away. Memorial Ensign, 1 red and a green. Whenever a land you control enters, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. If it's the second time, draw a card. So you play a land for turn, you sacrifice one of your Earthbenders to get rewarded, and your Earthbending creature comes back. That's your second time ability's result this turn. Terra Symbiosis. Whenever you put 1 or more plus encounters on each creature you control, draw that many cards, there's only 1 to each turn. You get to choose when you do this, so you don't have to do the first instance of plus encounters. If you know you're going to Earthbend 3 or Earthbend 5 later, you might want to wait till then, which is nice. The Boulder, Ready to Rumble. For 3 and a green, whenever it attacks Earthbend X, where X is a member of creatures you control with power 4 or greater. Repeatable Earthbending is great. The Legend of Koshai. For 4, a green, draw cards into the grid of power among creatures you control. Once you get it to 2, Earthbend X, where X is the number of cards in your hand, that land becomes a highlight individual type of types. I'm going to transform into Avatar Kaiyoshi. Lands you control of Trample and Hexproof. Tap, add X mana of any one color where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So typically it's going to tap for at least 5 because its power is 5. But you also draw a ton of cards. You Earthbend huge. As you just draw all those cards. Very nice place to be. Tireless Provisioner. For 2 and a green to Landfall. Whenever a land enters, create a food or a treasure token. Super nice card in all of my Landfall decks. Titania Protector of Argroth. For 3 and a green, when it enters, return target land card from the battlefield. Whenever a land you control is from the battlefield, create a 5/3 elemental creature token. Now, I think the land dies. Let me reread it. Target land you control becomes 0/0 creature with haste. That's still a land. Put up those scan on it. When it dies, there's exiled. So when it dies, it goes into your graveyard and then puts itself back into play tapped. And then you'd also make a 5/3, which is exactly why I included it. Toph, Earthbending Master. For 3 and a green, take 2/4 with Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you get experience counter. Whenever you attack Earthbend X, where X is the number of experience counters you have. Very fun. Toph, Greatest Earthbender. For 2, a red and a green, when it enters, Earthbend X, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast her. That's a line that she was going to be the commander. Land creatures you control have a double strike. But also just making a 4/4 with your 3/3 and giving all your land creatures double strike is insane. Toph, the Blind Abandoned. 2 and a green. It's an X3. Enters Earthbend 2. Its power equals the number of possible encounters on lands you control. Not my favorite Toph, but kind of fun here since I think we're going to make a lot of Earthbending things. True Ancestry. For 1 and a red, 1 and a green. Return up to 1 target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Create a clue. It's also a lesson. Bellicote Exploration. For 2 and a red, it's a landfall. When a land enters, battlefields under your control, exile top card in your library. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. At the beginning of your end step, if there are cards exiled with it, put them onto the owner's graveyard. Then it deals damage to each opponent. That much damage. Very nice card in the landfall decks, especially because you're not going to be able to do everything all the time, so just dealing a bunch of damage is nice. Zoran Orb is a great card with Titania, but being able to sacrifice your lands, especially if they're creatures and you block them, you can sacrifice into this, gain 2 life, and have it come right back into play, especially if you just try to block at them. Boston Say. I guess how do you say it? This line enters tapped unless you control a basic land. That can be a basic forest or a basic mountain. Tap, add a green, 3 mana, Earthbend 2. Great to Earthbend on 20 lands. Secret Tunnel in this land can't be blocked. It's a cave. Like I said, there would be a cave. Tap out a colorless 4 tap. 2 creatures you control that share a creature type can't be blocked this turn. So being able to Earthbend onto this means the land can't be blocked, and then you can get protected from your allies. There's a lot of allies in this deck, so there's also a lot of humans in this deck. Rumble Arena Vigilance. When it enters, scry 1, tap out a colorless 1 tap filter at what matter we call it. So Vigilance on an Earthbending card. And anytime you sacrifice this and it comes back in play, you get to continue to scry, which is a nice place to be also. Just a little bit of upside is great in these decks that generate a lot of value. Those are all the cards that I would include if I was going to build a Toph Hardheaded Teacher. I included the deck list on Moxfield in the description below. I hope you have a good rest of your day and may your top decks be ever in your favor. Thank you for watching.